then he leans into the anger.
Show me your ID.
Show me your ID.
Yeah.
Buddy, you just plugged the guy with hot lead.
Yeah.
Show me the ID. That doesn't show. That right there says I wasn't afraid.
It's time for my half-Asian lawyer, Bill Richmond. And the show is Hardly Legal on YouTube, where you give people legal advice and answer the questions like a call-in.
We do, yeah. And honest folks, real Americans calling in with legal issues. You can catch us on Rumble as well. We've got some great new episodes coming out from taping in LA, so very exciting.
Also, I think this next one is straight down center plate for you because, I mean, I hope I'm not letting, you're a competitive shooter.
Yes.
You're a very good shooter. I've spent time with him at the range, and he can pretty much pick up anything, and honestly, it ruins your self-esteem.
It does.
So this next video, I think you've seen this has been making the rounds. This was in Seattle, a shooting, and I warn you, if you guys can't watch this, someone does get shot. He lives, but there are quite a few facets to this, and I've seen some hot takes that may be wrong. All right, now before this, the man in the burgundy allegedly ripped off this man's military patch, his service patch. He has a knife and a gun in the wheelchair right now.
He's pulling the gun out.
Well, it's not all right for the guy who got shot.
Yeah.
It's all right, everybody.
Gun on me. I don't care if you pull the gun on me. We're not friends.
Yeah, so a lot of context there, and I'm curious to get your take, Bill. So this happened, I guess, on July 31st, but the footage was just released. The lead up to that wasn't on film was the man who you see shooting accused the man in the wheelchair of stolen valor and allegedly demanded see his ID, ripped the military patch, I guess, off of his bag or off of his jacket. I'm not entirely sure. And then what you see is that man in the wheelchair going up. He has a knife, and he's pulling out what we haven't seen it. What would appear to be, or at least as it's described thus far, a realistic-looking gun, but it's an airsoft gun.
Right.
And anyone who knows airsoft guns, in a moment of, in the heat of the moment, you wouldn't know the difference. You would think it's a real gun. Mm-hmm. So the shooter's claiming self-defense. He's been charged with assault. What's your take on this? Because it almost seems like two separate crimes. I'll tell you probably my
Yeah, give me your take.
As a
let me hear it. Yeah.
It's almost two separate, where him walking up and demanding ID and tearing off a patch, like that's assault, right? I guess you could argue battery.
Yeah, battery in Washington.
And I think it would be a different situation if, as he ripped off his patch, the man in the wheelchair said, "Hey, give me back my property. You know, it's priceless. It's something that can't be replaced." And grabbed, maybe if at that point he had a knife in self-defense or something like that. Like defending himself in the wheelchair, very different. Seems there was some distance between that moment in time and this, where then he's approaching him with a knife and a gun, and now he obviously is being the aggressor. How does that sort of tie in, though, with stand your ground laws and who would be at fault here?
Right. So Washington, let's lay some groundwork. So Washington has a no duty to retreat. So if you need, if you're in a place, whether it's not just castle doctrine, there's some additional protections related to castle doctrine. But if you're in public and there's a danger to yourself, imminent harm, imminent danger is the standard, you can use reasonably necessary force. So often that's considered proportionate, right? Someone throws, a cherry at you, you can't plug them and ventilate them, right? But you might be able to turn the hose on them, right? Or something like that, right? Or push or something like that. So in this particular incident, the complicated factor from each perspective, I think both folks did some practically wrong things, which might turn into some legally wrong things, right? Mm-hmm. So yes, if you walk up and rip someone's patch off, it doesn't matter whether it's stolen valor or not. You don't get to do that, right? That is assault that the person felt into reasonable imminent harm. And then if you actually touch them or touch their stuff, that's battery. So a crime was arguably committed in that very moment. Now, you'll notice that the moving forward, though, that's going to be the bigger issue.
Yep.
The man who is standing starts moving away, starts moving back.
Yeah.
And he continues to move back while the man in the wheelchair now has a knife and then is fumbling to pull out what anyone in that circumstance, a reasonable person, would consider to be a gun. And you could only see a little bit of it right there at the moment in the last part of that video. If you look closely, this isn't a bright orange Nerf gun, right? This is a black gun. Now, whether it had the orange tip or not to be seen, probably not that much relevant in the heat of the moment, because what the jury's going to look like like is not the actual sitting in a nice air-conditioned, courtroom 2 or 3 years later. They're going to go in that moment, in that circumstance, what was happening. And many, many cases of where jurors have said, it doesn't matter what kind of weapon you pulled out, unless it had, balloons attached to it and was bright orange and was, this big, right? No one's going to really think in that moment that it was a fake gun. So our big problem here for the man in the wheelchair, from his perspective, is moving forward. Was he angry? Was he upset? Sure. But no matter whether you call it stand your ground or duty to retreat, moving forward with a weapon is neither of those things.
Yes.
Right? Now, big problem for the guy from a practical standpoint, the guy who's standing, is he didn't move like a person in danger. Now, that might be because he's calm, he's collected, he knows what he's doing. But the appearance there wasn't one of harm. He continues to move back. The guy is literally having a problem in the wheelchair pulling the gun out. But I think you're going to end up at the end of the day saying, in the totality of the circumstances, the man in the French hat did not need to. I don't know. For some reason, the beret just keeps standing out to me
It is all
as a big lack of credibility.
Newsy hat.
Yeah.
More newsy. Yeah.
I was like, is this guy an orphan? Is he Christian Bale's younger brother? What's going on here?
Oliver Twist. Also, it's why I would recommend never carrying your firearm in a separate bag. Because
the timing there, I thought it was slow motion. I was like, oh no, this is actually just taking forever.
Right. Well, first off, in the eyes of a jury, they could go, well, you had enough time to do X, so you could have run away.
Right.
But imagine if this guy wasn't in a wheelchair and had an actual gun.
Yeah.
That guy's dead. That's
Right.
why you want a firearm in practice where you can draw and actually be able to protect yourself in relatively short order. So it seems like a list of bad decisions.
Pulling out an airsoft gun? How stupid do you have to be?
I mean, there's pulling a knife at a gunfight, but literally an airsoft gun is the worst choice.
Well, he pulled a knife too, in his defense.
Right.
He had both.
Bill, the way that I took it too, I follow what you're saying. The guy that ended up doing the shooting didn't seem very threatened by the knife at first, because he kind of moves back, but he's like, all right, this guy's in a wheelchair. It's a knife. He's got to get close to me. I can get away from him. The minute that he started reaching down, and I don't know where he was pulling the gun, it looked like it was still in some kind of a holster or something like that. The minute he started reaching down, that's when he pulled his bag around and pulled that out. Like, if I'm in that situation, if I turn around to run, I could get shot in the back.
Yeah.
So I don't know that it's reasonable to say that he should have just tried to run away.
Correct. I mean, some of the extreme examples are like, you see a guy that goes, oh man, I got to wait for this 30-second timer to open the safe to then pull my gun out, and then I need to load it. Like, in that time, yes, you don't have a duty to retreat, but you have to mitigate your own danger there, right? But in this circumstance, he didn't just immediately pull the gun. Right. He didn't immediately pull the gun when he saw the knife.
No.
Right. So that is going to be a factor in his favor to say he didn't feel that imminently in danger from the knife. He was moving back even as the guy was moving forward.
And if this existed in a vacuum, I would say, if anyone is now has their hand on what you believe to be a gun, you panic. You're like, okay, if I run away, can he shoot me? And if you have a gun, you're probably best served to protect yourself. As far as if you're trying to live, you don't know. Especially, is there a corner he could run around, or is it, the guy is seated, so it's almost like he's a built-in bench rest.
Do you think that a defensive measure against a disabled person in a wheelchair that goes 5 miles an hour might be to return the stolen property?
Yes.
It could be in a practical sense. And
that's what
Did the guy still have
I'm crazy, though. Maybe that's what I would do.
Did the guy still have it, though? Or
I don't know.
Did you rip it off?
It's not sure.
Well, I will say the person who shot him, he is a crazy person.
Douchebag.
He was arrested in 2020 for driving into Trump campaign volunteers for registering voters, and he said it was his duty to take action against the Trump administration. So,
and as far as we know, the man who was shot actually is a veteran.
Yes. Yeah.
So he is a actual veteran and wrongly accused of stolen valor. But this is the practical part of whether you have a real gun or a fake gun or a knife or not, is like those moments start having a big impact. Moving forward in the wheelchair to do what? Were you going to chase the guy down and steal the patch back?
With a knife, like a giant knife.
Right.
If you're disabled, you just gotta take it and get robbed.
No one's saying that, Josh. What we're saying is how the jury will look at it. So I'd be very careful with. I agree with you in principle, but if you do that afterwards and you don't go to the authorities first, very likely you are going to be charged with assault at that point. If you just go, roll up on a guy.
Especially in Washington, you are not allowed to pursue somebody who stole from you.
Is that the?
None of the laws allow you to run down and chase somebody. Castle doctrine a little bit differently on your property, etc. But here's one other factor I'll point to. After the shooting occurs, right? What does he say? He says, "Everybody, all right. Everything's all right." But then he leans into the anger.
Show me your ID.
Show me your ID,
yeah.
Buddy. You just plugged the guy with hot lead.
Yeah.
Show me the ID. That doesn't show that right there.
Yeah.
Says I wasn't afraid. The guy still has the gun. He's still alive. And now, granted, he didn't shoot him again, so he didn't feel harm. And what did he do in that moment? He didn't start looking around. He didn't start trying to make sure people okay. He didn't keep moving away. He said, "Give me your ID." Right. So that's not a good look.
But I agree with that on the surface. And this guy seems to be a dirtbag from all information we have on him previously. So I'm not defending this guy. Just the situation, you have to look at it objectively. Isn't there going to be a ton of adrenaline in your system? And that's kind of a reasonable. He didn't run up and start pounding him with the gun or anything. He just yelled, "Show me your ID." That's what they were arguing about.
Let me present this. Let's take away the fact that this guy's a piece of crap, right? Allegedly. I think you'd have two very different situations if these scenarios. And of course, there's always you get some rogue jury stuff.
Right.
But if as he was reaching for the guy's patch and ripping it off, if the guy in the wheelchair went and shot him, that'd probably be well within the realms of the law, him defending himself. Right. In a wheelchair, he's disabled. A guy getting physical with him. In other words, that would be simpler. Or if separately, if this guy hadn't grabbed his patch, if some guy with a wheelchair said, "Hey, you disrespected me," and was coming up with the gun and you shot him, that would probably be much more cut and dry. In this case, it's because of what preceded it, and then this guy going forward afterward.
Right.
Where it's like, hey, at this point, it's pretty tough to make an argument. It's like, as far as you knew, you both had a gun and you got shot.
You both got shot, and here's also one important doctrine. It doesn't apply in every state, but Washington does have this. It's called the revival of self-defense. So if you are the primary aggressor, initial aggressor, you can often neutralize your own use of self-defense. You can't walk up to somebody, punch them in the face, and be like, "Oh man, they punched me. I pulled a gun and shot them." Right. Obviously a problem. So in this instance, beret man, standing man, is moving backwards after the initial knife is pulled, after the initial stealing of the patch, right? So sure, there was arguably an assault or a battery in taking the patch, but he didn't then at that point stand there, wait for the guy to pull the knife, and then immediately pull a gun and start plugging him, right? So that little back and forth is going to be in favor of the man who was standing in just looking at the revival of his ability to defend himself, because he was moving away. He was not engaging. He was not continuing to go after the guy. And the wheelchair man continued to pursue him, which is a bad move on behalf of the wheelchair. Understandable.
Yeah.
Offended, angry.
Get out of control all the time. You can't trust them.
Yeah.
I was pulling back. It went forward. It was in airplane settings. I have no idea.
I mean, the reality is the wheelchair company is going to get sued.
That's true.
Yeah. And so
Josh,
will Smith & Wesson.
So I think, to Josh's point, we talked about this before the show. Obviously, this is a big deal to this guy. This isn't some small thing.
Right.
It's not worth getting shot over for sure. But my thought was, well, just don't pursue this guy with a large knife. It looks like 8, 10, 12-inch blade or something on that thing. It's almost comical, right? Crocodile Dundee knife, essentially. And you can still pursue him, but just don't pursue him with that, and don't reach for what appears to be a gun to most people.
Gerald feels very self-conscious about the size of this knife.
Yes, he does.
Well, I mean, if it was a small pocket knife,
Which you're more used to.
By it.
Yeah.
When he sees the large machete, he thinks of Travis Kelce and gets very comfortable.
Yes.
I will say this is also, as far as advice to people out there who are carrying, right? Probably important to keep your firearm concealed, and if you're in that, draw it and fire.
Yeah, I wouldn't brandish a firearm unless you intend to.
Yeah. Unless you intend to use
Bad
it,
move.
make sure at that point that someone else is the aggressor, and that afterwards, again, you're calm. You probably want to get your firearm either somewhere safe, either in a holster, or if the police are there, put it down. Make sure people are aware of it, but make sure that it is very clear legally. We're not talking about right and wrong, that you are defensively using a firearm.
Yeah.
And that also, I've read quite a few blogs from firearm experts who say that's also a complication with having it in a bag, because you will have people go like, well, if you had time to go get it in your bag, why didn't you have time to run away?
Well, his bag was on his shoulder, so I understand. He pulled it out very quickly. But
there's no question. A factor in whether or not it was self-defense versus premeditated is how long you had before you pull the trigger, right? So if you, even little instances of I saw something happening and I went inside the house, and how far they had to go in the house, right? If it's reach for the shotgun behind the front door, maybe less premeditated. Mm-hmm. If you had to go all the way to the back of the house and open the safe and pull it in and load it and then walk back to the front of the house.
Yeah. Well, there's actually it's interesting. The reason they have or they switched to off-duty officers carrying revolvers double action only, meaning it's a shrouded hammer or an internal hammer. Now, think about a revolver, right? You can cock it back, single action. That's like what you call a hair trigger versus pulling it all the way through. And I believe it was with the NYPD. And someone can bring this up. Famous case where he had a guy at gunpoint. The guy, I believe, was a violent drug dealer, and if you look back, rightfully should have been shot, was an aggressor, but because the cop had the hammer cocked, they said it could have been a negligent discharge, and the man was reprimanded. And they switched a lot of police service revolvers over to double action only, even though he could have been completely justified and he could have had it cocked into single action because he thought this guy's going to continue being violent. So that's unfortunately the technicality of the laws when you get the wrong DA, when you get the wrong judge who goes, but you shouldn't, even though this guy was violent, even though this guy was resisting arrest, and even though this guy had tried to attack you, you had it in single action.
Yeah. Josh, what are the gun laws in Seattle? In Washington.
I don't know.
State,
I don't know them completely. I just know a couple laws.
In terms of what? I mean, there's a lot of different
was
ones.
that guy? Would they have had restrictive laws?
They have concealed carry permits. They exist.
Yeah, they have permits. They have self-defense. They have the no duty to retreat. They have a modified castle doctrine. They've got this revival theory of self-defense. Yeah.
What would the legal requirement be of the man in the wheelchair if he wants to get his patch back? It was stolen, and the man who ripped it off of him is there in his presence. Like, what would he do if he's doing it by the book? What does the law expect of him?
He needs to call the cops.
Yeah.
I would say, in Washington, both guys' individual actions would be against the law.
My understanding of Washington law, but also more practically how Washington and specifically Seattle would approach something like that is you needed to call the cops.
Yeah.
Now, the
Doesn't
irony of that in Seattle, given what happened during COVID, is of course very true. But that is what they at least say.
No, Bill.
You would have needed to.
No, you don't need to call the cops. You need to set up an autonomous zone, and then you need to enforce the rules yourself.
What you need to do is burn down the precincts. Please do not do that.
This is one of the. It's one of those things where sometimes when you're a disabled person in a wheelchair, you are vulnerable.
Yeah.
No question.
And you don't, and apparently you don't have any recourse. Something gets stolen from you, and someone accuses you of something. The only thing you're allowed to do is
Call the cops.
I mean, sure.
No, it's unfortunate. It's wrong.
That is an action you can take. It's not an action that gets anything.
No, good luck.
Well, it doesn't feel good, but
it just you just get your shit stolen.
Yeah.
That's what you have to do. That's how you have to live your life. Otherwise, either you get your stuff stolen, you go to jail, or you get shot.
Yeah.
There's three options.
The options that you lose, obviously, in a wheelchair is, hey, you could physically, it would be less severe than murder or using a firearm. You could grab the guy and try and get your patch back. Now, that would still be assault, I would guess, right?
Well, I mean, look, if the guy's reaching for it, you can, again, defend yourself, push them off, but you can't then just grab him by the collar and just start popping him in the face, right? I mean, again, it's about proportionality, right? Okay, the guy reached down, ripped the patch off. The patch is gone. The guy took it. Let's say he didn't even see that the patch was stolen, and later he saw the guy a few minutes later with the patch. He goes, hey, that's my patch, right? He's not allowed to then jump out of the, well, let's just say he can't jump out of the wheelchair, but let's say he could just lunge.
Yeah, he could wheelie himself.
There's also the
Geronimo!
we don't have video of the full incident,
right?
And we keep talking about how the shooter kept moving back in a defensive posture. He's moving back. Well, at some point he moved in.
Right,
he did.
At some point he moved in. He got aggressive. He got mad. An argument probably happened. He reached up. He grabbed something that wasn't his. Stole it off of. Stole this. Doesn't matter what it is. Doesn't matter who he is. He stole something from him, and then he didn't leave. He was He was defensively walking back. He didn't leave.
Yeah,
but
he didn't leave.
That's the thing. There's no.
And the guy kept coming at him. Yeah. He was barreling down at him at 75 miles an hour. He didn't leave.
Right. No, he didn't leave.
He was still interested in having this conversation.
It's morally reprehensible.
Yes,
but
he was
as far
still
as the
interested
law,
in being right. He still wanted to see the ID. He was still invested in the situation. And the guy in the wheelchair is like, he just stole something from me. He just, I don't know how hard he hit him or touched him. Maybe assaulted. Don't know. But he's still here.
Yeah.
I still have to deal with this. If I want to get out of the situation, I got to find a ramp.
right?
Well, but
I'm down by the pier or wherever they were. I got to find a ramp. I got to get out of here. I had to find a vehicle that can put me in it.
The alternative is the guy could have walked down the street or walked down the block, and the wheelchair guy could have followed him too. So in other words,
Josh, unfortunately, I think according to Bill's analysis of this, you may have just undercut yourself. If if the property's been stolen and the guy isn't running anywhere, he's still there.
Yeah.
You can make a case for, well, then you had plenty of time to wait for the police. The guy wasn't going anywhere. He was engaging you in an argument. But
even then, you're not
obligated to.
If a thief runs up and steals your purse and runs away, you can't shoot him in the back.
No, of course.
Period. You just can't do it. Not in this country. At least not at this time.
Yeah.
Right?
If they steal it from your house in Texas,
No, I'm with
until when they're climbing over the fence, you can still shoot them because that's your property, right?
See,
Bill?
Gerald,
no, not necessarily.
Every time
Fine.
It's called the Girl Scout rule, dipshit.
Is that a thing?
The Girl Scout rule. Yeah, you can't. Well, now in that case, it may not apply. But yeah, Bill knows about this.
Wait, you can't shoot
you
Girl
have people,
Scouts?
Exactly. You can't just
Son
shoot
of
someone
a
because they're on your
gun.
property. There has to be a reasonable suspicion
they
of them
stole-
causing.
No, they stole
Yes, I
something.
know. But what I'm saying is, if they're running away, I wonder if the law would still apply. They're on your property at that
No,
point.
I think on your property is fine, right, Bill?
No, but that's the point. It's not just on your property. It's called the Girl Scout rule. That's what I'm telling you. You can't
they
blow
stole
away a
something.
Girl Scout with a 44 Magnum because you didn't want some Samoas and they're on your property.
But
Look, Gerald,
what if the Girl
Gerald,
Scouts
they're
stole
called-
the
they're
Samoas
called
from
coconut
the
delights.
freezer?
Please
Yes.
do not shoot
Caramel
anyone
delights.
running away on your property.
I
Please.
won't. I'm just saying.
Please.
I think you should be able to, but legally, probably not. Right?
Oh, come on.
And that is what I would say. Like back in college when I worked in the gun industry, we literally everyone had guns everywhere. This is where I learned to shoot. It was a great time. Had a lot of great people, and the people there who were the most diehard gun advocates were also the ones who were like, do not pull your gun unless you are 100% sure. And by 100%, I mean 1,000% sure you're in the right. Because it's not about whether you could make an armchair argument or technically be correct. It's what 12 people with an average 8th grade, maybe 6th grade education, depending on what state you're in or county, and a DA with a political leaning, depending where you're at, is going to decide they want
terrible,
to do.
though. That's
right?
You're right.
I
And it's
completely agree.
Terrible.
And the
And I-
repercussions it has on the rest of the gun owner society
Yeah,
afterwards.
and I agree with Josh. I would have, in other words, if this story read, "Hey, man steals disabled veterans patch and gets shot for his troubles," that would be a feel-good story.
Or
to
the
me.
crowd beat the crap out of him and returned the patch.
Unfortunately, that's not how it went. And so, as far as dispensing advice to people out there, don't do that. Also, do we know the caliber of the gun fired? Does anyone know? Because the guy, as I understand, the guy lived. I mean, he shot him pretty much point blank, straight there. It also just reminds me how, in many surprisingly ineffective pistol calibers can be. It really does come down to shot placement because people are like, I only use 45. It's like he just shot that guy who's literally in a chair and he's pretty much fine.
He looked like he had a few layers to.
A little bit of.
Probably had a few layers, but when people go like, "Oh, you're carrying that," you're gonna just like, I don't really know if it would have made a difference from 32 all the way up to 45 at that point. Unless you're talking about a rifle, it seems like if you miss something vital, like don't rely on one shot from a pistol. If it's actually someone on PCP who's a threat, one shot from a pistol often is not nearly as effective as people expect.
I hope it was in the leg. I hope it was shot in the leg. He's like, hey,
It looked
legs
like
don't
it
work.
was
Shoot
upper
those.
body. It looked like it was
It
upper
looked like
body.
it was torso to me.
So let me tell you just how complex this can get at times. Notice the guy shot once. He fired once.
Yeah.
Right? So some DAs have argued
Yep.
that if you shot once, you were not in imminent danger because your adrenaline was not too high because you were able to
Showed restraint.
just shoot once. If you thought that he was actually a harm with a real gun, you would have shot him multiple times. On the other side, you shoot multiple times.
Yeah.
They go, this guy was Dirty Harry. He was just out there firing. He thought this was Predator 1, and he had a hip mounted 50 cal. Like that. Like there's no way to win when it's on the edge.
Yeah.
So that is the problem with how these
In the
laws
wrong
are
district.
interpreted.
But
That puts these people's lives in danger, right? So I
does.
agree with you, and I
It
know you're not
does.
advocating. Nobody is. I'm
Look,
just saying,
this is why it starts with good parenting.
Well, no, I know.
Yes.
Good parenting,
Yes.
yes, fine. But at the
Yes.
same time, I don't like if I'm in a situation, not like that, obviously, but if I'm in a situation where I might have to reach for a firearm, I don't want the, oh God, am I going to go to jail for murder defending myself? Going through my mind. I'd rather just not die. Right? I would rather be thinking about protecting
Correct.
my family and my children.
Correct.
Now, obviously, I don't want there to be room for people to just randomly blow people away because they felt quasi-threatened because a black guy walked up to them.
That's an
or
opinion,
something, You know,
sure.
like, I don't want that. Some opinion. I mean, somebody walks up to me and says, I'm Jehovah's Witness. Bam, bam, bam. I don't want that to happen.
Yeah.
Okay? But the state of gun rights, that's not a gun right. That's a last possible chance. There's 1,000% that you're in the
Yes.
right, maybe. That's not what the founders intended.
No, I
Like,
get
we
it.
needed to be able to defend ourselves. That's not defending yourself. That's praying that you don't go to jail doing something that
You have the right to do.
everybody would have been fine with in 1850 going, well, yeah, that guy was a prick. He had a gun. Of course, shoot him.
Yeah. That guy, what? He stole your property? Well, why is this man still
I
alive?
didn't realize you didn't know how to shoot.
I think you get shot if you don't shoot the guy who
Right,
stole your patch
The
in
judge does it.
1850.
Wait,
Yes.
a man stole your property, was armed, and he's still alive. Is this a riddle, you say? What were you gonna say, Noodles?
Research says that charging documents specify it was a 45.
45.
It was a 45?
Wow.
There's people like, I don't use anything with a caliber that's less than 4. And wasn't he talking to him afterwards? He was like, help me. He's like, I'm not your friend. In other words, the guy seemed like he was relatively okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he could say, help me. I don't know.
It might not have been a hollow point.
Yeah,
He's
but
also seated, so it's kind of hard. Like, if he was standing, you would have seen him
The
fall.
oddity of someone who would be carrying a gun in their bag and then ready to pull it out and engage.
I think
and
it was
not
charged.
using a hollow point.
Yeah,
is.
He was
There's a
going to-
lot of idiocy.
I think it was
going to the
charged.
range.
Did he charge it first, or did he
Like,
just pull it on
if
shoot?
we can, let's watch it again to
Yeah, let's
see.
watch it one more time.
And I'll count the amount of time for him to draw his weapon.
All right, here we go.
Okay, so now he's coming. This guy kept backing up. Okay.
He's like
Now reaches
smirking.
for his gun.
little
Yeah.
prick.
Okay. 1, 2.
Now the guy's grabbing
3,
something.
4, 5,
He's
6,
like, what's that? What's that?
7, 8, 9.
Yeah, that was charged.
Yeah, it was already charged.
One in the chamber.
I will also say Frenchman waited until the gun was pointed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He did not fire as soon as it was pulled.
Jammed too.
Show me your ID.
Not.
Gun on me.
Jeez.
Did it jam?
Now there you go. You can see. So you can see the gun right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like
Now
looks
look,
like a black
he's-
gun.
He still has his finger on the trigger. Is what it
I
looks
think
like
it's
right
in a
here.
holster.
It looks like it's in a
Is
holster.
it in a holster?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So that's the whole thing. He's leaning down, and that's when the guy starts to go to his backpack. He's like, okay, he's reaching for something else. Obviously, he's got a knife. Now he's not going to be able to close distance. Fine. He starts reaching down, and that's when he actually steps back. He pulls his gun out.
Yeah.
And then he waits and fires. And it looks like there's some communication. I don't know what's being said.
Hold on, I do have a question. Did you say it looks like his gun jams? Was he trying to fire again? And it
doesn't look like he was trying to fire again, but it did look like
his
it
gun
jammed.
jams, so he might have been trying to fire again. Because watch it again. His gun jams. He recharges it.
I thought maybe he was dropping the magazine and clearing the chamber.
Maybe you're right.
But let's watch it again.
I don't know.
No, I think it did jam.
Okay, so there's the first shot. Bang. And then
All right, everybody.
Oh yeah, it does look
Yeah,
like
it
he was
definitely
trying
jammed.
to-
All right, good spot.
But it doesn't look like he was trying to fire.
no, here's the
more
thing.
than once.
He likely paused. He likely only would have known, right, Bill, that it jammed if he was trying to fire
Because
again.
He would.
Hold
Well,
on,
he
hold on.
may have seen that it jammed.
Maybe.
He pulls his gun down.
It was a
So
minute.
hold on. He fires. He pulls his gun down. He sees. It looks like he sees like, okay, this isn't going to go any further. And he looks down, and that's when he starts to clear.
Well, that's when you have a malfunction.
You're gonna bring it
usually
close.
pull the
You
Got to
weapon
bring it
down.
down to
no,
clear.
I know, but I'm saying like he would have done it very quickly and hurriedly if he was trying to fire a second shot.
I don't think
and
you
realized
would.
He couldn't.
I don't think you would necessarily notice that it would. Except my gut says he wouldn't have noticed that it jammed unless he was trying to fire again. Most likely.
Well, so here's the thing.
That's usually when you find
I
out.
have a video
Yeah.
from us this weekend. My 1911 jammed,
that horrible 1911 that
and me
jammed every magazine.
clearing the malfunction. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
not
like this.
saying-
It's I'm an idiot. I'm on camera. Shit.
Yeah, pulling
Yeah.
it down, clearing it. Yeah. So that looks to me like he tried to shoot
But-
again.
No, but here's why I would say no. Like, do you see him doing it with any kind of hurry, any kind of intensity at all?
Well, some
No,
people
we-
walk in
we-
front.
we
His,
had that-
his, he
that
still has the
faggot
gun
run in
trained
front.
on.
I mean, it's 3.5 seconds.
Yeah, he still has the gun trained on him,
but
and then the
what would
next thing you
happen-
know, he's clearing a jam. So, in other
No,
words, he
slowly
could have
pulls
easily
it down,
tried to
he
fight.
looks down, clears it. He does it with.
No, hold on. Let's watch. So 10 seconds.
Okay, I
Yeah.
gotta fight you on this one, Gerald. Like,
Go ahead,
in
fight
that
me.
moment,
Yes.
you're keeping your eyes on the guy who just had the gun. You're seeing,
Yes,
you're
but-
assessing what's happening. You're pulling it down. You're trying to figure out.
Precisely.
You don't want to look down and clear. But I don't think it's clear either way whether he was trying to shoot again.
Right.
Other than the fact that he did not pull the gun back up again.
I'm saying it'd be very hard to make the case that he was. I'm not saying he wasn't. I'm
Sure,
saying it'd be very
sure.
hard to make the case based on what I've seen. Like if I'm firing and I'm a novice, right? So I'm just
Yeah.
give your everyman opinion. If I'm firing and I pull the trigger again, I'm looking immediately at the gun. What's wrong with my gun?
I can tell you this: it doesn't look like a very obvious jam. In other words, it might be one where there's a failure to fully extract that you wouldn't know. In other words, from the
We have
back,
to look, of
there
course.
are some jams that you don't know, and it's right from the back of the gun until you look. And the only way you would know it's jammed is if you pull the trigger and it's not going. In other words, you can't know if it's jammed or not until you either do one of two things: look or pull.
And we were
Pull.
just giving
And
the guy credit for having good weapon discipline, good barrel discipline, and not he didn't shoot until he had acquired a target. He didn't do that. If you have good gun discipline, barrel discipline, whatever you want to call it, you don't just clear it right here like this.
Right.
No, I'm not saying you would have done that.
Come down.
Yeah. No, you guys are arguing
Reacquire
the wrong
target.
point. Like you're strawmanning my point. My point is he's not acting with any kind of urgency at all. Like there is no hurried movement because I'm trying to put more shots.
Okay, I'll prove you wrong in real time.
See that
I'll prove you wrong in real time.
Covering his ears.
I will prove you wrong in real time.
Okay.
We'll play the clip where he shoots. I just want to be contentious today. Where he shoots.
It's one of those days.
So look, so the sense of urgency, right? Can we all agree? The established baseline is the highest sense of urgency is when he shoots, right? Obviously?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll count how many seconds he stays in that exact position of the utmost urgency before he looks down to clear a gem. That's how many seconds he would have to fire again.
It's hard. There's a bunch of Asians
Here
running
it
in front
is.
of him.
Pause right before he shoots.
There's a second.
So now
video
play.
of this.
Out.
Is there?
Yeah.
Highest. Bang. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, pause.
See,
so
this
at
is
any
my
point during those 9 seconds, at the highest, he's in the same position as the highest sense of urgency. It seems very likely that he would have tried to fire again. He did not move that gun off of that target.
Right.
And the next thing you know, so he goes from, I'm here to shoot, shoots, I'm still here to shoot, and then for some reason starts checking his weapon.
But you guys said that the reason that he did it is because he would likely was trying to fire again and realized he couldn't.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
I'm
a,
saying
it's
he's
It's
not.
likely.
I'm
it
saying
is
he's not.
likely. I would call it a. I mean, I'll give you benefit of
it's
the
a
doubt.
Ty Gerald
55-45.
Yeah.
Yeah, but why? Why would y'all say that? He's sitting there holding it. So wouldn't it make the most sense to put rounds into the target immediately? Like not just one, wait a little bit.
Yeah, but the point is he could have been pulling that trigger.
Hold on. Let me make my point. I don't disagree with you. What I'm saying is he pulls the trigger, bang. He pulls it again, nothing. What do you do when nothing happens when you pull the trigger?
A lot of people instinctively pull it again.
You pull it
Okay,
again.
so let's
Some
say he pulls
people
it again.
panic.
Hold on. He pulls it again. 8 seconds worth of that?
Yeah.
No. No
Yeah.
way. No way. Not a chance in hell. Not a chance in hell. He's pulling that thing 6-7 seconds worth of time to try to figure out what's going on. He pulls it down. He doesn't look like he's scared. He doesn't look like he's trying to fire again.
No, he doesn't. But I'm just saying that
right.
if,
Yeah,
if there's another camera angle, what I am
there is
saying,
a second
if there's
angle,
another
yeah.
angle and it shows in any way that he tried to pull that trigger a second time, that would factor in, I would imagine, quite a big deal because at that point the guy is neutralized. He's not moving forward. If there's any proof that this happened, click a second time, he's done.
I don't think so. Bill's point was you can
If
argue
he
either way.
does.
But there is a second angle.
I
though.
think that there's no
So see if we
no
can get
indication
that.
there that he saw more danger, but there is
Right.
the risk of it because literally the gun's just right
still
here.
right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah.
Right.
But let me say this real quick. There is a second angle that doesn't have as much cover, I don't think. So if guys, if you can pull that. I don't know all of what it shows. I remember seeing it, but I don't remember if it's better or
Well,
not.
I think we
So.
should take some chat for Bill, but
Yeah.
really quickly, can these representatives be actually arrested if they don't come back?
So they definitely can be arrested, but here's the
That's
point:
fun.
outside of the state, we're just going. There's just Abbott's going for the gold here, right? The warranto or the warranto, which is a maneuver to say you've neutralized because you failed to do your duty.
Yeah.
is actually has a lot of historical precedent around. You've decided you're not going to do your duty, right? You have actively solicited funds to leave the state. You have said we're going to continue indefinitely staying out here because we don't want this one item out of 18 items on this special session to get passed. And the reality is that this power does exist now. Abbott was going for the immediate strike on getting them bounced right now with the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court does clearly have the authority to make this, the Texas Supreme Court, make this decision. But I think understandably so, because this is a very rare situation, they're waiting and have required additional briefing until September 4th. And then at that point, there can be another session that gets called by Abbott to do another special session, another 30 days. Why does all this matter from a timing? September 9th is one of the earliest deadlines for primary filing. So if you're going to start running or doing other things, like you're going to want to know by early September because you got to get those dates in. So there's definitely a game of chicken here, but without question, the Texas Constitution imbues within these legislators as officers of the state an obligation to come and participate. And their decision not to gives very wide open for Abbott to do what he's doing. All of that said, I really don't like the idea of Abbott saying, well, they're gerrymandering, we should gerrymander too. We got to convince these hearts and minds. We got to play the game to a certain extent, but the reality is that these guys have done something wrong here by leaving the state intentionally, and all power under the law should be used. And it seems very clear from the precedent that this is what they can do.
Oh, you're still here watching this on YouTube? There's no more. It's over. Just like YouTube. YouTube is over. It's not a thing anymore. How many Seth Meyers clips do you need? Head on over to Rumble. Follow me there. Live on weekdays at 11 a.m. Eastern, where we can actually speak freely and don't have to self-censor. YouTube it's really not a thing. Like, you ever seen one of those towns that maybe was like a mining town, or maybe they made some kind of alloy? You say, hey, I wonder what they did in this town. It takes a while to find a person who can tell you what they did in that town, and even then you don't fully understand it. That's YouTube. YouTube is that town. So go to Rumble.